Empowering.
Tragedy.
Feminist.
Heavy.
Tragic. Chaotic. Heavy-hearted.
Tragic.
Bleak.
Traumatic. Haunting.
Impactful.
Applicable.
The audience is basically watching the downfall of this city and everyone going into like these camps, becoming slaves, and just everything's being kind of torn apart.
This play is just full of like emotions and trauma and a story that doesn't get told a lot.
Every scene, it's almost like a new thing happening to these, like the women, and it's just a new sad thing. And I think it's just a really, I guess, heavy thing to watch, because you're just watching these women's life just crumble.
Of course, it's a long time ago, and you don't see a lot of empowering women figures, especially at in this time period. So it's cool to see, going through the play and seeing empowering women throughout the entire thing.
As an ensemble member, I'm working together with the other women to try to get through this tragic thing that's happening, and we're all experiencing this at once, but we're seeing it through our eyes and not other people's eyes, so it's leading us to see it in a different way than others.
When we're speaking together, it makes us seem like everybody is having the same thought, but we're all experiencing it differently from the emotions on our face and just the way we say it with our voice and our body language. I feel like they could tell that we're all experiencing a different emotion all at once.
I think because our characters, all of us are going through the same thing, and we're seeing things and we're communicating and we're close to each other, but since we're different people, we'll think about things and get through different things differently and have our own thoughts about everything that would be happening.
We each work individually to add our own piece to it. So it's we all use different words, but they all kind of mean around the same thing, and we're all aiming for the same message.
I think this character's authority is something he's not used to or wants even. It's something that has just been pushed onto him. So I think there's just a mask of authority that he tries to have when he's around the women. So it's just something that he picks up that other people do, and so he's like, okay, this is the authority I need to have. But in a much deeper, he sees what's really going on, and he feels just truly bad for them. And it's a hard line to find, but I think it's a cool thing about the character.
Her ability to see the future is also a curse, because part of it is that nobody believes her, no matter how truthful it is. Even if it does happen, no one believes her, and so that affects her over time. And I feel like that just makes her very just kind of disassociate with all that's going around her, because she already knows what's going to happen. So I feel like I play her in a way that she kind of flashes in between being lucid and trying to convince people, and also just going off into her own head.
I think in a lot of iterations, people like to look at him as kind of partially a tragedy in the fact that Helen left him. I much prefer him as a character if he never actually loved Helen. He used her for power, and he just wants that power back. He wants to prove to everyone that he's in charge.
What definitely drives his actions is the fact that he built Troy himself. He was cursed by Zeus to have to become a human and live with them and build the walls for them. So it's he has this connection to them for the first time, rather instead of just being this godlike figure and not being connected to the mortal world. He was there. He was part of it. So it lingers within him.
So when I first read the script, I immediately locked in on Andromache's and Talthybius' relationship and friendship. And I knew that there was more there than what was originally said in the script. There were so many undertones, and so I knew that I wanted like this backstory almost, and so I was like, I think that Talthybius, when Andromache was first taken, almost had this like, he felt bad for her because she has this infant, and so he was bringing her extra clothes and food and was helping take care of her infant. And so I bring this idea to Miss Lundgren, and I was like, I think that this should shape every interaction I have with Talthybius. And it's difficult to portray emotions that aren't necessarily explicitly there. And so Miss Lundgren did a really good job at sitting down, and at every interaction in the script, we wrote down, okay, this is the emotion she has towards Talthybius here, and it changes throughout the play. And so we would map out and write out, okay, she's feeling this way here, but now it's changed in this, short interaction. And so that's kind of how I approached specifically that relationship.
Well, definitely influencing the understanding part, because everybody here, they understand their characters and like just know what they want to portray very well. So that allows you to just get what the point is of the show.
Well, working with the cast, I've grown more accustomed to being around these people, and it's made it a lot easier to bring out some of the more serious emotions in the play. Like sometimes I have to throw people around and stuff, and it's a pretty frightful scene, I suppose, and it's just really helped me to pull that all together and make it come to life on the stage.
Before getting into the play like we are now, I didn't really understand it, and I think working with everyone just really helped.
I think definitely being able to see everyone else like showing off their acting skills, it's definitely helped me see what I need to work on, see how I can work on these things. And I think being able to see them work with their characters is definitely helpful to being able to be shown on like what's going on, how other characters are feeling as well as I am. So I think that definitely helps.
A specific moment that stood out to me was our read-through, our first day. And we came in and she was telling us everything, like the backstory and everything. And I usually read-throughs, you sit there and you go through and everyone just reads their lines and that's the end of the day. It's your first interpretation of your character, and so it's very important. And we went in that first day and Miss Lundgren gave us the backstory of everything and went into a lot of detail with why our characters were feeling the way that we felt. And I think it was really important because that was my first reaction and first interpretation of Hecuba, and I like how she explained it because that's what I remember that's what I've always remembered. That's how I play her now, is a lot of what she explained to us on that first day.
I mean, she really leaves it up to us for the most part, but I mean, the way that she teaches us the process of acting impacts the way that we act, because there are different ways you can do it, there are different ways you can get into character. I mean, I just feel like the way that she's described getting into character has definitely impacted the way that I do it. Like the first day, it was maybe the first or the second day, we did a whole lesson on a specific type of theater and a specific way of getting into character that kind of sticks out to me.
When I first was casted in this role, I immediately went to Miss Lundgren and I was like, I'm scared, because it is such an emotional role. And so I went to her with, all these concerns, and she was like, we're gonna get through it. And so one thing that Miss Lundgren does anytime that I do these super emotional scenes is she always works in a cool down at the end of rehearsal, where we do a fun game or we do meditation or something where we pack all of our emotions into this imaginary suitcase and we close the suitcase and we don't open the suitcase. And that really helps me go out of rehearsal and just leave everything on the stage and not take it home. I also, scream Olivia Rodrigo in the car, so that helps too.
A big thing is don't act like someone, don't pretend like someone has passed, because that's actually pretty damaging to your mental state. That's like a popular thing to do, kind of like whenever you first get into it, but that's not necessarily a good thing to do. We all kind of just picture a city that's been destroyed in something, and we imagine our characters have fallen in love with that city. They lived there their entire lives, and we imagine them seeing that destroyed city and imagining how they would have felt.
I just kind of think of
things don't always go to a happy ending, and some people don't always get their way. And so, what is it any difference with this? This is just showing loss.
One thing that Miss Lundgren will do is like after like a heavy thing like that, we'll do like a fun game or just something that kind of gets you out of that mind. Because I mean, there are like some rehearsals when we just like we're doing the same scene again and it's like a hard scene or just like a difficult, sad scene. It's hard to get out of that like mindset. But I think it's just something that like fun games or just some kind of thing that you do yourself that can get you out of that.
Well, number one, method acting, make sure not to do that. I have to really remind myself, even on days that are like really tough for me mentally, I call it like, it's like a halfway point for me. I'll go in knowing that I'm not going to full send that day, just so it's not as mentally draining. So really just taking care of your mental health. That is what, everything else will come naturally as you're doing it. If you put yourself in your character, like you're losing, I'm playing a mother, so I'm just imagining myself losing a kid, and you can sit there and as you're saying your lines and it's happening, it's just a very natural thing. It's more so the after effects that you have to make sure of.
The message would be not to let little things cause a big impact, especially when it could be fixed so easily. It shouldn't become something so big.
I think that the just sadness of the play just is really the big takeaway, and that not all stories have a happy ending.
I wish that people who come to see it understand that war affects not only those who are directly in it, but those surrounded by it too. The people who, the families that live in the areas where anything takes place, they are affected, and in negative ways.
I always want to kind of like make the audience feel as if not everything can always turn out how you expect it, and that even if you think it's going to go one way, it might not go the other way, and just be prepared and always keep going.
It shows a lot of character development through very little time, and like it shows what's happened to these people, and I just think it's a very moving piece.
When the audience leaves this play, they're going to be thinking about a lot of stuff that they saw. There's so many emotions that are in this. I think they're gonna leave and they're gonna be like, oh.
I want them to feel the tragedy that kind of the war and the aftermath of the war kind of pushed on all these people.